Greetings everybody! Welcome back to Moonlight Productions. Today, it's time to look at the Tarhill state, North Carolina. North Carolina was the 12th state to be admitted into the Union on November 21st, 1789. North Carolina has become one of the most popular states in the nation to migrate to. It's considered a crossroad in the country, primarily for those who moved to Florida from New York. Then the moving New Yorker doesn't like Florida as much as they thought they would, and they decided to go with something in between like North Carolina or Virginia, as something of a compromise move. Those people are referred to as halfbackers. As a result, many more people are moving to North Carolina than just Northeasterners. That includes my sister who lived in the Midwest for a long time. I even spent a week in the area of North Carolina, out in the state from the Outer Banks to the Asheville area of North Carolina. Before North Carolina gained statehood, many indigenous tribes roamed the area for thousands of years. The British would start its area conquest with 2 colonies established in the 1580s. After that, permanent residents from the Northern Virginia began moving south. As the area started to be conquered, the area would be known as Carolina. After the fight with the American Revolution, North Carolina was the first state to declare independence from Great Britain. Later, North Carolina was officially admitted into the country in November of 1789, but like its southern states like South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia, North Carolina also fled the United States on May 20th, 1861, as it became the 10th state to join the Union in fighting the Civil War. After the Confederates lost the battle, North Carolina was admitted back into the Union on July 4th, 1868, sort of fitting in my opinion. After many years of a strong economy and pleasant weather, North Carolina has just exploded in popularity. North Carolina's population has just jumped to the 9th largest in the nation. Over 10.7 million people live in North Carolina, or about 3.17% of the US live in the state. As for the size of North Carolina, the state is 29th in length, which is about 48,718 square miles. The state capital is also its largest city, Raleigh. Raleigh has a population of over 483,000 residents, which makes Raleigh the 11th largest state capital in the nation. Considering the acceleration that North Carolina has experienced over the years, you might think North Carolina is one of the best places we have. Well, no place is perfect. North Carolina isn't bad at all in my opinion, but join me as I bring you the good and bad about North Carolina. Number 5, the bad public transportation. As Raleigh continues to expand in population, more and more resources are going to need to be implemented in order to keep up with the influx of the residents. Unfortunately, most of North Carolina is not really all that amazing when it comes to an elaborate transport system. North Carolina in general is 29th in the nation. Nothing is very high-ranking regarding your public transportation. Your buses and trains are underwhelming. Also, the quality of the public roads and bridges is moderate in terms of quality and stability. The transport system puts a strain on the traffic system in the cities. Not just Raleigh, but Raleigh isn't exactly the worst in the nation when it comes to bad traffic congestion. So it could be worse, but it also could be a lot better. Number 4, the residents don't like newcomers. An extraordinary amount of southern hospitality comes from, well, the Sun Belt. However, a massive amount of new residents calling North Carolina home, more and more people are starting to get cold and detached because of that influx. Of course, that doesn't make North Carolina in the same vein as New York or New Jersey in terms of the rudeness level, but North Carolina is a different type of rude that isn't exactly the same type of cold shoulder. Once you get to know the community, things could be more enthusiastic for a newcomer in North Carolina. Number 3, it's a swing state. I know I have to bring this up for the 3rd episode in a row regarding politics. Some think it's actually a good thing to be in a swing state. Obviously depends on how your idea consists of being in a battleground state connects for you. Even though I don't live in a swing state, I understand how annoying it can be to get wazooed on the politics. I remember I visited the state during the midterm primary in the 2022 election cycle. It was a political yard sign city. Most statewide elections in North Carolina are very close. The state's senators are Republicans, while the current governor is a Democrat. So if politics aren't something you can't stand, it might be best to move to another state. Number 2, mediocre education. North Carolina is one of 11 states that do all year-round schools, and that's about as best when it comes to your North Carolina education. After that, you're going to have to deal with more negative aspects when it comes to your education. North Carolina is 35th out of 50 when it comes to student success qualifications, the safety of students is 44th, and the quality of the education is 38th, making North Carolina's score being 63, or the equivalent of being ranked 44th out of all 50 states. I'm sure there are good schools in North Carolina. The problem is there are just so many negative schools to counteract the positive ones. Case in point, do some solid research before you take your kid to a particular North Carolina school. And the considered worst thing about North Carolina, weather is all over the place. It isn't uncommon to have a typical day, then later in that day, sirens are going to go off for things like hurricanes. A great majority of North Carolina is covered in a humid subtropical climate. At the same time, this does make the state attractive for those who are snowbirds. It also can be seen as a double-edged sword. During the summertime, it is muggy and pouring buckets of sweat hot. Combining that with the eastern shore hurricane season makes the weather in the state one excruciating mess to get through. Thankfully, those who prefer the colder and enjoy living in places like Asheville, where North Carolina's western shores are part of the Appalachian mountain range, the oceanic climate of the area can be seen as a sweeter spot. And the mountains also make the Arctic fingers from Canada not riffle through the rest of the state. While weather is always subjective, like I've said before, subjective, you always have some options in North Carolina, but you definitely have to pick between the two. Number 5, the state's great for food lovers. This one is a no-brainer. Southern food is about as good and beneficial as food and water. From the great barbecue, either with the whole roasted hog on the west or the Lexington style known in the east, the state offers the fish caught all over the state. North Carolina's well-known history in the agricultural industry, so vegetables to other various types of meats are going to be something throughout the state you're going to see plenty of. I once had a goat burger that had blueberry ketchup on it in a rural area out in North Carolina. It might be a good idea if you're out in North Carolina, go plan a food trip, go around, see the different communities and see what they have to offer. You really appreciate it. Number 4, it's retirement friendly. This state's reasoning is, on average, more geared for those who want to retire in a warmer climate, but as I mentioned, Asheville and some of its neighbors in the western portion of North Carolina, those areas are shielding the rest of the state like a wall from the frigid conditions. North Carolina is pretty modest, all things considered. If you're not into cold winters, you'll have to deal with the hurricanes, and as I previously mentioned, you're going to have to deal with the brutally hot summers. If that is a good option though, if you're looking to live in a place that's retirement friendly, and also aren't going to kill your bank account like California or Florida when it comes to living in a coastal state. Number 3, the residents are delightful. This is in the South, so you're going to find some sweet and good-loving people in those Tarhills. Sure, no place is immune to people who you don't want to be around. It would help if you appreciated good neighbors and the fact that you will find traditionally nicer people. So many aspects are mixed into the idea of how friendly or rude a state's residents are. From the tips people are willing to be generous about, the rudeness of the drivers, the phone call recipients. Putting everything together, according to Zippia, North Carolina is the 3rd best in the nation. That's pretty good. The only states that are beating the state is Mississippi and Arkansas, which to me, considering how much you're making and stuff in those states, I figured they'd be ruder. Number 2, the cost of living. Considering North Carolina is one of the major hotspots for movers, one would think the state is just expensive out the wazoo. However, it's not all that expensive, unless you're looking to want to live out in the beach communities out in the Outer Banks. Those are, for sure, the outrageously priced homes. The only higher stat that comes higher to your cost of living is the healthcare in North Carolina. That's about 10% above the national average, but everything else is much lower. The average cost of living score in North Carolina is 4% under the national average. Or if you have $100 in your pocket, the actual value of that money is $109. Considering everything that's going to be factored together, you can't go wrong with lower prices, especially in these more misty times regarding the economy. And considered to be the best thing about North Carolina is the great job opportunities. It's not all just Raleigh. Even more miniature cities are expanding in job opportunities. So, for example, if you're in the more artsy town of Asheville, the financial capital outside of New York City and Charlotte, in addition, there's noticeably strong food markets outside of Raleigh where Butterball headquarters is in Garner, and tourism is vital in the state's regions, but is more pronounced out in the eastern Outer Banks. Although that's just me doing a broad broach of the essential industries that's going on in North Carolina, from the textiles and furniture to food and aerospace. Plenty of skilled and non-skilled jobs are going to be beneficial to anybody in North Carolina. So that's it. Those are the top 5 good and bad about the state of North Carolina. If you haven't already, please hit that like button down below and subscribe to Moonlight Productions if you haven't already. Check out some of these other videos about the Good and Bad series and other animations that I provided. I enjoy making these fun animation videos and being able to spread knowledge around the world. Thank you so much for your time and take care of yourself. Bye!